So we are in the middle of this series that we're calling "The Journey is the Destination," based off of our pastor Jeremy Brown's book that we are reading together and doing small groups for. The first 3 weeks have been incredible. Today we're going to connect with Chris, and it's going to be another great day. For me, I was a '90s baby, born '85, grew up all throughout the '90s, and now here we are a lot of years later. And I think back a lot of times, talking with my kids, we do TGIF. I don't know if you remember that from the 90s. It's not actually on TV anymore, but it was like the Friday night lineup on ABC, Boy Meets World, Family Matters. I think Full House was on there for a little bit, Step by Step. I think Dinosaurs made a brief appearance. Sister, Hang with Mr. Cooper, all of those awesome shows. Now you can pretty much find those on one of the 17 streaming services that they offer. But oftentimes I find myself talking with my kids about things that I remember from the 90s that are no longer around. Maybe think with me, maybe it's a show that you used to watch. Maybe it's a food or a type of drink that you used to consume. Maybe it was, games that you used to be able to play that you can't do now. What think with me, and if you can think of one, let us know in the chat. Type something up. Maybe it's, what was that Pepsi, Crystal Pepsi or something like that. I think that came back for a little bit a while ago. I think back to Saturday morning cartoons. There was a show that I used to love. I think it was called All-Star something or Pro Sports Team. I can't remember, but when I say this, some of you are tracking with me. It was like a cartoon, and Bo Jackson was in it. Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky. I think those were the three main ones. I can't remember us, but they were like, pro sports superheroes or something. But we can all probably think of things in our past, whether you're an 90s baby, an 80s baby, an early 2000s baby, 60s, 50s, whenever it was that you grew up. I'm sure we can all picture and think of something that we had back then that we kind of missed, that's not so popular today. Well, as we dive into part 4 of this series, The Journey is the Destination, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. Chris is going to walk us through some things, and kind of going to take a look at something that's not really, grasped onto a lot these days or held up as much importance. But it's going to be an incredible day. Buckle up. Let's get ready to join Chris for part 4 of our series, The Journey is the Destination.
Hey, thanks, Chuck. Perfect way to get us started today. Hey, we are right in the middle of a series that is called The Journey is the Destination. It's kind of based on the Bible and this book that's written by our friend Jeremy Brown. And we've been walking our way through it. For the last 3 weeks, we've been talking about these gears that bring together our life. And when these gears come together properly, it produces the life that we kind of wish we had, that we've been promised, that we dream of. The life that doesn't feel like it's such a drudgery, just to wake up, do your stuff over and over again, that there's meaning to it, there's focus to it, there's purpose to it. What we found out is with gears have to mesh together. There's 5 of these gears we're looking at. The first one we looked at was to pursue, we've used the word pursue, to pursue identity. What we recognize is there's so many things that corrupt or shade or shadow our identity. When it's not right, it affects everything else. It affects all the other gears of my life. When that one's wrong, everything else is affected. Second one, Jeremy looked at last week with us, it was kind of a no-dub moment, pursue God. But the reality is just knowing there is a God, accepting that there is a God, stating that there is a God, doesn't mean I'm pursuing God. It's a huge piece of our life. And when we're not pursuing, it slows down that gear. When that gear slows down, it slows down the rest of life. We don't even recognize it. It's like we're running full speed over here, but the things that will bring us some contentment in our life are getting dragged down. Today, I want to look at the third one, pursue truth. That has to do with what Chuck was talking about when we started. What are things from back in the day that seemed really popular that over time have faded? I'll give you some of those I've been thinking about, reading about, jotting down. Here's one, encyclopedias. Do you guys remember encyclopedias? Some of you are like, no, I don't. Well, you're young. Stop it. Stop being so young. For a lot of us, we grew up with encyclopedias. When we wanted to know things, I couldn't Google it. I couldn't just ask Siri. I actually had to go to these ridiculously thick books and look through them, and sometimes it was there, sometimes it wasn't. The last ones were printed in 2011, printed by Encyclopedia Britannica. They were 21 volumes. I mean, it's like 100 pounds of books. They're kind of yesterday's news. You may still have them. You may still use them. I don't know. I don't mean to insult you, but I'm just telling you that's yesterday's stuff. They are no longer in the scope of life. I'll give you another one. Typewriters. Remember that? Some people just love the sound of a typewriter. I don't know what's up with that. The last typewriters were actually made in India in 2011. There may still be some sitting on a shelf somewhere, but they don't even make them anymore. Remember the old typewriter? Here's one, film. Remember film, the stuff you used to put in a camera and then it had to be developed. You took it somewhere and then they showed, remember? Canon made the last film-oriented camera in 2010. Weird story, it was 2018 when the last ones were sold. It took them 8 years just to deplete all their inventory. But that's an old school thing now. People don't say, let me go get some film, let me take some picture, let me drop it off, let me pay some people to have it developed, and then I can look at it. If I want to show anybody else, they have to be sitting right beside me because that is yesterday's news. It's not even just not popular, it's not even around anymore. Those are things. How about foods? I'll tell you one, when I was growing up that was everywhere was Jell-O. My mom used to make Jell-O. I was a picky eater, so maybe it was just because it's one of the things you can make. That is full of vitamins and minerals and things that'll make you healthy. Jell-O, it's colored water that congealed. But their sales 80% down from where they were 15 years ago. Congealed food is not a very popular thing anymore. Who'd have seen that coming, huh? Another one, meatloaf. Now this is one, some of you are going to get a little miffed by. This is one that needed to get less popular way sooner than it did. They say that 80% of homes will never serve meatloaf in your child's life. They'll never experience that. Meatloaf used to be a staple in a lot of homes. Some of you are like, it's a staple now, and don't you talk about my meatloaf. Hey, you deal with your own meatloaf. I'm just saying, meatloaf, the singer or the food, either one can pass away, and I'm just fine with it. Not pass away like dead, just the music. I feel like now I've offended people who love to eat meatloaf and people who love the music. So sorry, get over yourself. It's dying off quick. One last one is Sunny D. You remember Sunny D, the little orange juice looking stuff, Sunny D? We used to give it to our kids. It used to be everywhere. Matter of fact, at one point, it was after Coke and Pepsi, it was the third leading drink in Europe and the UK. In the UK and in the United States. The third leading seller. How bonkers is that? Something weird happened a few years ago, a bunch of years ago, that some little girl drank tons of it, like a liter and a half or 2 liters a day, and she kind of turned orange, and it started this big controversy about it. And it turned out that drinking Sunny D doesn't make you orange unless you just drink an inordinate amount of it. But people did begin to recognize that there was about the same amount of sugar in that as in a carbonated beverage, and that got people to stop giving it to their kids for snack things. And over the course of time, it's still around. It's called Sunny Delight, not Sunny D now. It's been repackaged. It's still around a little bit, but it's gone from like $270 to $300 million a year to just a small blip on the radar of drinks. Things that used to be popular that aren't anymore. Let me just tell you, the thing we're talking about today fits that. I want to tell you some truth about truth. Some truths about truth. Maybe that would be a better way to say it. The first one of those truths about truth is that truth often goes out of style. We live in a world today where saying that something is the truth pushes a lot of buttons, ticks off a lot of people. They'll say, that may be your truth, I have my truth. They have their truth. But here's what I want to say today, and if it bothers you, I apologize. I'm not trying to bother you. It's what I believe, though. I believe there is the truth. There's an absolute truth. It's not mine to decipher. It's not mine to weigh in on. It is the truth. You can accept it or not accept it. It doesn't make it any less the truth. When we pursue truth in our life, we have to accept that there is an absolute truth. The Bible says it this way, and it's a verse that's also become very unpopular for a lot of people. In John 14:6, it's Jesus speaking. And by the way, it was kind of unpopular when he said it. Some people got really ticked off right after he said it. He said to them, a whole group that were sitting around, he said, I am, tough way to start a sentence, I am. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father, no one comes to God except through me. I am the path to get there. A lot of people are like, who the heck do you think you are? I am. No one comes but through me. A lot of I and me. And they did not want to accept that. It really drew a line in the sand in his day. People who followed Jesus and accepted him as the way, the truth, and the life, and others who said he's just a good guy and I'm not even sure he's that good and I don't want any part of it. By the way, it has been drawing a line through society ever since, and it does for people today. It ticks people off. People want to say there's not a the truth. You just choose a truth to call your own. Well, pursuing truth, if you want to live the life that the Creator meant for you, then you have to put your trust in the Creator as the truth. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Maybe that's a difficult thing for you to accept. I'm just saying you're going to trust in something. You're going to find your truth somewhere. I've chosen my truth to be the one who said, I am the way, the truth, the life. He lived a perfect life, died and raised himself from the dead. If you can find a truth that has done that, I'll follow your truth. But until then, I'm sticking with him. Does that make sense? I have chosen, doesn't mean you have to. I have chosen to pursue the way, the truth, the life that is truth. It's not always popular, but that doesn't make it any less true. Second truths about truth. Sometimes truth is given in bite-sized pieces. There's this great spot in the Bible in Hebrews. It kind of just tells kind of the goats, the greatest of all times, little Hall of Fame deal. And it tells about this guy named Abraham. Read the verse to you. In Hebrews chapter 11, it says, it was by faith that Abraham obeyed God. It's by faith that Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and to go to another land that God would give him as his inheritance. It was by faith. Here's what faith is. It is trusting in God as the truth. God said, Abraham, do this. Abraham went, whoa, wait a minute. I got questions. And God said, I want you to do this. I want you to trust me. And Abraham accepted what God said as the truth. The next verse begins to explain it. It says that he went without knowing where he was going. And even when he reached the land God had promised him, he lived there by faith, for he was like a foreigner living in tents. Can you imagine this? 75-year-old, they called him Abram then, his name was later changed to Abraham. 75-year-old Abram and his 65-year-old wife and his aging, not in great health dad, they load up their whole caravan of U-Haul donkeys, camels, whatever they had, and they're going to move. They pack up everything that they can take with them, and they head out, and here's the crazy thing. They left without knowing what the destination was. Do you think he didn't wonder? You think they didn't have that discussion? You think she didn't say, you're not good at following directions. You need to find directions. Some of you are like, yeah, that's every man in the world. He'll drive anywhere and not know where he's going. For Abraham, it was a big piece of this puzzle. That God said, go, and I want you to trust me, and here's the outcome. I will give you an inheritance at the end of your life that you could never have any other way. The question is, will you trust me to do it? As a matter of fact, when you go all the way back to Genesis 12, when he first told him this is what it says. The Lord said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will show you. And all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. That's a big promise. If you will trust me, I will do something bigger than you could ever do on your own. I have something good for you. And all the families of the earth, holy cow. I mean, how do you do that? Here's the answer. That Abraham's great, I don't really know how many great, so I'm just going to keep saying great grandson was born. Perhaps you've heard of him. He was a guy named Jesus who came and he literally changed the world. He drew a line right down the middle of humanity, even separated BC from AD. I mean, our calendars still play in that world. He came along, and he is a descendant. If you follow the lineage of Abraham, the guy who had been promised this great family, but at 75 had no kids. And God said, listen, if you will place your trust in me as the truth, then I have a plan for your life, but it was going to require you going. By the way, Jesus came along, and everybody he called, he said, hey, follow me. Most of the time, people had to say, follow you where? Just follow me. Where are we going? I'll let you know. What I need you to do is trust me enough that wherever I'm going is for your best. If Jesus walked up to you today and said, hey, listen, I'm going to need you to leave behind the things you're counting on and holding on to and follow me, would you? Well, he has. That is the invitation of Jesus today. You're all going to trust in something. You're all going to bank on something. He said, I am the truth. Will you trust me in that? Will you accept that I am the truth, the way, and the life? So here's the first part, is that sometimes truth just seems so out of style with our culture. Sometimes truth seems to come in bite-sized pieces. He gives us just enough light to get to the next step, and we have to rely on or trust that truth is indeed enough. And then there's the third one, and we get there. Sometimes the truth doesn't appear, get this, sometimes the truth doesn't appear or doesn't feel very true. This is just being honest. I know that doesn't sound very spiritual, but sometimes truth doesn't feel very true. Sometimes the Bible says God is good and God is kind and God is just and God is merciful, and I look around at all of the pain and all the struggle in the world and it doesn't feel like he is. True? Agreed? Sometimes God says he does certain things, and when I look around, I go, how could he let that guy sit there rich and powerful, hello, Vladimir, and somebody else be destroyed? How could a good God allow that? And sometimes truth doesn't look or feel very truthful. I have to remember that this is not the end of the story. And here's the thing about truth. The reason we say there's absolute truth, and that is such a big thing for us to pursue, is that if you don't trust in that truth, you will not stick with it. You will bail, because truth plays out in the end differently than it does in the beginning. It comes in bite-sized pieces often, and beyond that, it doesn't feel like it is very true. You have to believe and trust. That's why it's called faith. Can I give you a few other things? So the last couple of weeks, I've been just digging into this over and over in my life of how much do I pursue? Not have I bought in that Jesus is Jesus, that Jesus is God. Not that. How much do I pursue truth in my day-to-day life? And so I started writing out areas where I struggle. They may not be your struggles at all. This is just the confessions of a screwed up guy who's trying to do better. I'll give you a few of them. I'll go as fast as I can. You ready? Here's the first one. As I empty myself for others, that God will refill me with something better. Sometimes it feels like you try so hard to help others and they don't offer much in return. And there's a piece of me at times that goes, you know what? Just forget it. I'm done. I'm so done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you. I'm done with everybody. As I empty myself for others, that God refills me with something better. It's this concept. I could tell you, hey, everybody take a breath. Matter of fact, let's just do that right now. Take a deep breath in. You're not doing it. I'm watching you in this camera. Come on, take a deep breath in. Hold it. In some ways you go, the best thing for me is I'll never lack breath if I just hold my breath. I always have some. Now, you and I both know that's a stupid thing to do, and in the next minute, some of you 12 seconds, some of you 2 minutes maybe, in the next little while, you're going to have to let your breath out. That is the way you were built to live. When it comes to life, God built us to invest our life in others, to empty ourselves out for others, with the thought that he will refill us with something even better. That process of me investing in others and God investing in me is how God grows us healthy. It's how he builds stamina. It's how he builds faith in us. But there's a piece of me that just goes, that doesn't feel like truth. When I'm in the middle of it and there's a lot of people who don't respond, it makes me feel like what I am is exhausted. Give you another one. As I do lowly things, Lofty things are being accomplished. It feels like most of life is doing a bunch of crap that just doesn't matter. For some of you, you've got family at home and the number of loads of laundry and dishes and the what's for dinners and I'm going to try to make enough to pay the bills one more month so we can survive, so we can go back to work and do it again. And there's a piece that feels like, is this really all it is? It's a rat race, the rats win. I am sick of it. I'm exhausted from it. The belief that when I do lowly things, that lofty things are being accomplished is something you have to believe. When I do my little bit, that God will do something greater. For Abraham, it would be, how can I go to a place and I have no kids and you've promised me descendants? And the truth was, while Abraham was just obeying, God was doing something bigger. God had a bigger plan. I just tell you this, if you are doing an awful lot of lowly things and you feel unappreciated, unnoticed, exhausted from it, can I just tell you, don't assume that God's not doing something behind the scenes, because he is. As I do lowly things, he's doing lofty things. I'll give you another one. As I point people towards him, he is fighting for me. He tells us that's our role in this world, that we are supposed to go and help other people recognize, know him, and follow him. All through the New Testament, Jesus would meet people, they would have a interaction with him, and then they would run and tell their friends, say, you've got to come and meet this man I've met. He's unlike anybody else. That is our job. Here's the crazy thing. That is an exhausting way to live. It means that I'm constantly for-othering. And here's the point. As I point people toward him, as I bring people with me toward him, that he is fighting for me. Let me give you another one. As I live in the dark, as I don't understand what's going on, as I look around and say, I just don't get it, as I do that, he's up to more than I know. There's a statement we often make when two people are arguing. Here's what, if you don't know how to argue, let me teach you here really quick. One person says something, and while they're doing it, the other person figures out a way to tell them that what they said was stupid. You don't know. That's ridiculous. Here's the words we often use. That doesn't make sense at all. That makes no sense at all. What we probably should say is that, and it may be true how you feel, but what we ought to say is that doesn't make sense to me. And often what's going on in the world around me, I pray and say, God, do this, would you do that? Or this would be so great, and it makes so much sense to me, and then God does something else. And what I often say is that doesn't make any sense at all. And what I need to do when I accept truth as truth is my statement needs to be, that doesn't make any sense to me, but I trust that it does to you because I know you're up to more than meets the eye. Let me give you another one. At the end of the story, at the end of your story, at the end of my story, when the story of my life is finished being told, right? At the end of the story, that God will level the hurt, level the struggle. He'll level the pain that I have felt or that I feel right now. And for some of us, you're in a spot in life and you go, I feel like I am getting the life kicked out of me. And I pray, and it feels like if God is who he says he is, he would somehow make it all right. And I just want to tell you this, God says that there is a point when justice will be served, when wrongs will be made right. At the end of my story, by the end of my story, he will level the field. He will make those things right. In the meantime is the tough part. And in the meantime, you will stray from the life you were intended to have if you can't accept absolute truth, that God is God and that he is working on your behalf. And even if it's not showing up, that he will someday level the playing field. Let me give you another one. A couple more. I'll quit, promise. That loving people who don't love me back very well, loving people who don't love me back very well is exactly what Jesus did. And it's worth it in the long run. He called a whole bunch of people to follow him. He gave his life for them, and most of them turned his back on him. That loving people who don't love me back, it brings so much pain. And for some of us, it's our greatest difficulty in life is that I care so much for them. And some of you are in a family where that's the case. Some of your kids, some of your spouses, some of the people, your parents, you're trying so hard and they're offering nothing in return, and it feels so empty. And the belief that loving people who don't love me back is exactly what Jesus did. And by the way, it's what you're called to do. It is worth it in the long run. Well, I'm not in the long run. Yes, you are. Right now, you just feel the short run. All right, I'll give you one more. This life isn't just about this life. If I live for just today, then today is all I'm going to get. This life isn't about just this piece of life. If I live for today, better enjoy it because today is all I get. Here's the answer. There's laid up for me something greater. That there's more to this life than just existing, staying on the treadmill long enough till the beeper goes off. There's more to this life, and I am living for something greater than just today. Maybe another way to say it would be this, that my best efforts are never going to be enough in this life. So I trust in a better enough. We talked about Paul a couple of weeks ago, and he said, take this away from me, God. And God said, I don't want to take it away from you. I want to be what you trust in. I want to be enough for you. If you would just do that, it would be so much better. I want to make it better with that. I want you to trust me. I want you to trade your other enough and let me be your enough. He said, my grace is enough. And that's what he wants from us. You cannot do that. It is impossible to do that until first you pursue truth. Does that make sense? Are you with me? Here's the truth. We all believe in something. Everybody believes something about everything. You have an opinion, you have a thought. Even if you don't understand it, we all believe. It may have come through education, through your parents, through your life experience. We all believe something. We all believe something about COVID. We all believe something about the world we live in. We all believe something about something. We all trust in something. It's kind of our version of our truth. We all do. Steve Jobs did a commencement address for Stanford University back in 2005, and he made a statement. You may love Steve Jobs, hate Steve Jobs, or couldn't care less about Steve Jobs, but he made this statement. It's a really smart statement. I've read it a bunch of times. It's all over the internet. He says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. That's a pretty wise statement. Most of us can look back in our life and see sometimes and we go, oh, I guess I see what God was doing there. Or I see how that played into that. Oh, it makes more sense now. I don't think looking backwards is 20/20 vision, but I do think you can see much more clearly. So his statement is, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Way to go, Steve Jobs. I like your phone, like your iPad, like my computer, but I don't like your next statement because this is what he said. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. You ready for this? You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. You have to trust in something. Well, I agree you have to trust in something. If your options are your gut, destiny, life, karma, or whatever, you're roasted. You don't trust in you? For me to trust in me, I look in the mirror every day and don't like me. There's times when I think I'm doing okay, but most of the time I look at it and go, I haven't got a clue. Every time I think I got it figured out, they keep changing the thing I'm figuring out. Trust in my gut, trust in destiny. I don't even know what that means. Trust in life. How ambiguous is that? Trust in karma. There. I feel really secure in that. My hope is built on nothing less than karma. Seriously? Talk about grasping at straws. Or then he gives us this finish, whatever. I'll just trust in whatever. And I'll just tell you, Steve Jobs is probably a smart guy in a lot of ways. But that statement, you're going to trust in something. I agree with that. You may not understand everything that's happening because the dots don't always connect looking forward. But I'll tell you who is the connector of the dots, is the maker of the dots, and his name is Jesus. Truth has a name, and his name is Jesus. That's why he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And you're going to trust in something. I'm going to trust in something. You get your choice. I'm not going to judge you for who you trust in. I'm just telling you my life experience. I would love to just trust in me, but I'm a broken vessel, and the thought that I'm going to trust in something broken to be less broken makes no sense to me. I'm not going to trust in you because you're broken too. I'm not going to trust in destiny or karma. That's all broken too. So I've chosen to place my trust in someone with a name, Jesus, who did this. He predicted what was going to happen. He predicted his birth, came and was born, lived a perfect life, died a perfect life, died and raised himself from the dead. I trust in that. If you've got one of those, if you've got somebody who's done that or something, then I'll trust in them. But until you do, I'm trusting in him. You got to trust in something. Why not that? And for me, that served me well. The problem is I often quit pursuing truth and I just think about truth and it lets me down a little bit. It's meant to be pursued. I've had a couple friends who've been through some really difficult times in their life. They've had cancer, they've been through radiation and been through chemo. There's this cool thing they do at the end of chemo, your last chemo treatment. is that they go and they have a bell there that you ring. If you watch it, go YouTube it and chemo bell or whatever you want to call it. And it's kind of fun to watch, but I'll be honest with you, it doesn't mean nearly as much watching it as it does being there, and it doesn't mean as much being there as being the person. Can you imagine the person? Some of you are like, I can imagine this. You've done it. The person who goes through week after week and month after month and treatment after treatment of pumping poison into your body that either will help you or kill you or not much in between. And the throwing up and the chills and the weight loss and the hair loss and the devastation to your body and all the things that come with it. And at the end of that, matter of fact, watch the face of this young girl in the video that'll play while I'm talking. That feeling of, I am finished, it is done. Thank God I'm healed. I'm past it. And then there's this little question mark, hopefully I am. But you can watch the relief in that moment as that bell rings. Everybody needs a bell to ring at some point in their life to say, thank God. Can I just tell you, Jesus lived and he died on a cross. And right at the end of that story, he makes a statement. He says, it is finished. Bell has been rung. It is over. Enough. I have taken the brokenness and the sickness and the devastation that's going on inside of mankind. I have taken your cancer. I have taken it on me. And now your sin, you can be freed from. Bell rung. It is finished. It is done. Will you place your trust in me? Can I be your way, your truth, and your life? Not just will you accept that once, will you live that way every day? Even though it's not in style, even though it comes in little pieces and it doesn't answer all the end questions sometimes, and even though it doesn't feel like truth, will you trust me enough to keep following me? With all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Will you? Hey, have you ever made that decision? Have you ever accepted that it is finished, that bell rung? If you haven't, man, this would be the perfect time to do that. And if you have, are you pursuing truth with all of your being today? If you've never made that decision, can I pray a prayer? Hey, listen, for me, there's a point in my life where I just said to God, I'll follow you. I don't know where we're going. I don't even know what all that means. As best I can, I'll place my confidence. I'm going to trust something. I trust you. I wonder if you'll do that with me right now. So God, for those watching this who are tired and frustrated and just wonder, is there anything better than what I've got? Could they accept the fact that you've come to offer them a different life? You've come to offer them hope. You've come to be their truth, their life, their way. And for me, I'm grateful that you, in all of my wrong, that you were willing to forgive it, that you took on all of the stuff that needed to be fixed, and you gave me forgiveness. And for those who are praying this prayer today, would you help them accept you as the truth? Help us all to pursue that as if there is nothing better, because there is nothing better. We ask it in your name. Amen. Hey, for those of you who prayed that prayer, would you go to ourjourney.news? We would celebrate with you like it's 1999. If you just go to ourjourney.news, down on the bottom, you'll see that little button, and you can just click where it says Next Steps, and you'll see an option. Today, I accepted Jesus to be my way, my truth. And if you did that, way to go. For everybody else, pursue it as if there's nothing better, because there's nothing better. Have a great week.